Hi everybody. Okay, so what next? So let's imagine that we've got a bit of improvisation together, that we can play the trombone averagely well, and we sort of play solos like this. Okay, everything's really nice. It's sort of swinging, it's sort of in time, it's quite diatonic within the key. It's nice, right? It's nice. Let's now imagine that we've got a bit of language, that we've got a few licks, we've got a few things. It might sound like this. Okay, so there's a bit of language in there, there's a bit of licks. Again, it's very nice. We're taking it to the next level. Let's imagine now that we can start, we know a bit more about the harmony that we're playing over. So we can start playing around with the harmony, some of the extensions. You might start sounding something like this. Something like this. Okay, so I'm playing around there. I was playing around with the 2 chord, then did an altered 5 chord to 1. Okay, so we're doing great. We're on the right road. Now what? Now what? Maybe we're a bit bored of our own playing. Maybe we're sort of running out of ideas. You know, it's happened to me a lot, you know, and what I try and do is I try and give myself different games, if you like, silly games to play with, or different things that I can think about, different concepts. I'm forever wanting my solos to be exciting, to have a journey, to not just sort of go up and down, and we all play the nice changes, up and down, everything's middle register, everything's lovely, and all the musos around us go, well done, you played all the changes, you know, like as if it's sort of a mathematical exercise, right? I've always tried I want to create something in my solos. I want to sort of do something. I want my solos to be as exciting as the trumpet player next to me, who can, literally, he can just sort of put something up the octave, and it just sounds so exciting and so vibey. And then the sax player can have a go, and he plays so fast and growling and all this. And then it's your go on trombone, and we're just sort of parping around the middle register. No one can really quite hear what we're doing. No one can really quite hear our articulation. The ideas might not quite come out. Things like that. Obviously, I've had years and years of doing gigs thinking about these things. So I want to do a run of videos that basically talk about what next. Once you've got some basic stuff together, what's some other concepts, some other things that we can start thinking about. Now then, I think the first thing is, how do you make your solo more exciting, right? I mean, there's lots of different ways to do this, but I think definitely getting the rhythm section on your side. Whatever band you're playing in or anything like this, hopefully they're your mates, talk to them about it. Talk to them, say, this is what I'm trying to do when I'm soloing. And trust that they can carry the energy for you. So it's a classic. We're playing in a big band, we play all the charts, everything's fine, you get your one solo of the night, it's 16 bars long, and you just start going crazy. Trying to carry everything, you're trying to get higher, you're trying to play louder, you're trying to carry the whole energy. Well, you'll come unstuck, I definitely did, you know, you'll run out of ideas, your chops will go, which we can talk about all that. But I think the secret is get your rhythm section on board. A lot of times when I'm soloing now, if I'm getting towards the end of my solo, I might throw a phrase out. I don't know, whatever. Nothing. Leave some space for the rhythm section to get involved. 1, 2, 1, ba da da da. Nothing. Boom, boom, ba ding 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 da da go. Ba 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 da da da. Right? So I'm allowing other players to come in and talk to me, to have a conversation. They're carrying on. The energy is still there. The intensity. This is definitely what I'm going to get onto. Creating some intensity, the energy. How do we carry this energy? Because you can do some things, which I'll tell you about, but you can't carry it all on your own. So that has been one example, like sort of trading fours. I mean, there's another great idea. If you get to the end of your solo and you're running out of ideas, your chops are tired, you've been playing all night, you've done the sound check, you've done a rehearsal, you're at the end of the night, give a trombone solo on the last tune, you're tired. Look to the guy next to you and say, shall we trade? Shall we trade? Don't be, what's the word, sort of selfish, like ego driven. Oh yeah, I'm going to have a solo, I'm going to take it all and do 100 choruses. Like, use your brain. Like, shall we trade? So he'll play 4 bars, you'll play 4 bars, he'll play 4 bars. While he's playing his 4 bars, you're resting and hearing what he's doing. He's feeding you ideas. You can then start playing off against each other. And actually, I think most of the times that I've traded, my solos have been a lot better. The simple fact that I'm giving myself time to think. In those 4 bars that he's playing, I'm giving myself time to think. I'm calming down a bit. I'm not getting all tense and I'm going to absolutely go for it, So I think that's another good tip. There's some other things that I'll talk about. But regarding all that, I think it's sort of slowing ourselves down. Definitely when we're improvising, our brains are working so fast that if you play a phrase, it's lost. If you keep going, phrase, it gets lost. So for me, if I want the rhythm section to do something, to react to what I'm doing, I'll play it a few times. Nothing. By now, the rhythm section will be like, he's consistently doing the same thing. I can get involved. You're inviting people in. But what am I doing? I'm playing strong phrases and I'm being sort of consistent. So, moving on. Here's another idea. There's obviously a thing to play. Let's not underestimate this one. Simply playing louder has got some intensity to it. Makes it more exciting. Now then, I spent a good few years doing this sort of Bill Watrous thing. The microphone right up my bell, and I could play quiet, and I had loads of flexibility. I could play low, I could play high, I could move around all over the horn. The mic's picking it up, and I'm making the microphone work for me. Now, that does work, and it can sound great, and I still use that to this day. However, I did it for maybe 2 years. I made a conscious effort to do it. That you were sick of sort of being on a gig, you can't really hear yourself, the audience can't really hear you, or you're just blowing so hard to blow naturally over the top of a band. I was like, I'm not going to do that anymore. It's absolutely shattering. And the stuff that I'm trying to get out on the trombone is splitting, it's all over the place. So for 2 years, I thought, I'm going to get right on the microphone. I'd make a point of getting the mic in the perfect place for me. Stand up so that it's a classic when you've got the microphone down here, you stand up to solo and there's no microphone and then you're looking down like this, There's a story, we did a TV show, one of these, America's Got Talent type shows. X Factor it was. And we all played Can't Take My Eyes Off You. And the big trombone bit, the big brass bit, we all stood up. Right? Because we got told to stand up. Our microphones were down here. So then when we sat down after it, no one could hear that bit. When we sat down after, it was just like, it's too much. So yeah, silly story. But when you get on a gig, get the microphone, make sure it's in the right place and easy adjustable. Obviously, don't stand up right at the beginning of your solo. Give yourself 4 bars, 8 bars or something. Get the microphone in place beforehand. Okay, so back to the story. I spent 2 years playing quietly, feeling good, playing some good stuff. But I was like, it's not coming through. It's not coming through. And when we're soloing, we're trying to sort of spread our ideas and share our ideas with other people to try and convince the people listening of what we're doing is right, I guess. How do you do that? By being a bit more convicted, a bit more committed, not convicted, a bit more committed. I.e., simple fix, play a bit louder, play a bit stronger. A volume can give you more intensity. Excuse me. Yeah? I'm playing the same stuff as I did at the beginning of this video, but I'm just playing it a bit louder. Just giving it a bit more air. A tip about air, I teach a lot of students. I'm saying you need to play louder. You need to play louder. You need to support the guys next to you. You know, a lot of students come out, they can fly around their instruments, but they're basically whispering. Professionals do play a lot louder to support what's going on. It's more committed. And I should say, which is, therefore, you need to practice louder. You need to practice. It's all right being in your room at home and you're noodling around and you're working on all your stuff. Right? It's nice. Oh, great. New lick. Oh, yeah, it feels good. That's swinging. Play it stronger. Right? Whatever it was, you know, I'm committing. I also find that really helps me learn a lick. If I'm learning a phrase and putting it through all the keys, if I just play it a bit stronger, a bit more committed, a bit more determined, this is it. This is where the slide positions are, right? Giving it, I think that helps my brain sort of learn it. So playing a bit stronger, I think is good. Now then, let's not forget this, and I definitely think this is underestimated. The time, our swing feel. Everybody has a different swing feel. Now, if there's the beat, and I'm just sort of noodling, I mean, that's the word, isn't it, that trombones get told. We're noodling around. Right? I'm noodling. Think about the time. Think about your swing and be as committed, aggressive with the swing, with the time, so that people can lock in to your groove, you know. You can feel it. You can feel my pulse when I'm playing. And when I'm playing it with the rhythm section, I'm still giving it the full 100%. I'm still giving it on the time, the groove, playing in time. I'm playing strong with the time. And again, let's take it to the next step. If you start playing triplets, if you start playing semiquavers, if you start double timing, make sure they are triplets. You know, make sure dee da do dee da do dee da do dee da do da. You're aggressive with the time. You're committing fully to the swing. Don't just think, oh, the drummer's got the swing and I'm just going to play nicely over the top of the groove, you know. Get involved, get in the water, get in those waves and start splashing around, you know. So, okay, good. So that's a bit of volume. Oh, I wanted to tell you about this. With volume, for people that play quiet, I'm like, blow harder, blow harder, blow harder. Yeah, it needs to be bigger, blow harder. And then a mate of mine said to me, because I said, none of these are blowing harder. They're not like making the trombone sound. It's just noodling away. And they said, do they breathe in? It's such the simplest thing. But maybe until somebody tells you, you need to breathe in. You can't just keep blowing harder, taking small breaths, and then playing as loud as you can. When I'm breathing and when all the pros are doing it, we're literally sucking up the air. We've always got tons of air. And it's sort of aggressively sucking in the air, you know, especially if you're reading big band charts and things like that. It's like, mark the breathing. When you're doing your classical tunes, mark where you're going to breathe. Right in, blow out. So obviously, another simple tip, you can't play loud if you don't breathe in. So have a think about that. Okay, what else? Coming on to this intensity thing. If you go and learn how to play drums, I've mentioned this in a few, touched on a few of these things in other videos, so do check out the other videos. If you go to a drum lesson, the first thing that they'll do is they'll go, okay, boom, tip, boom, tip, 2, tip, dum, dum, tip, 3, tip, dum, dum, tip, 4, tip, boom, dibba, 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 bosh. Right? What have we just done there? In lesson 1 of a drum thing, it might be a bit simpler than that, but definitely in lesson 1, you learn how to rhythmically cadence. You learn how to cadence. We've gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay? I mean, this sort of is life-changing. This changed my life of how I'm listening to solos and how I'm thinking about my own solos. If the rhythm section are cadencing on bar 4, coming out on beat 1, right, of the next 4 bars, then we should do the same. As everyone should do it. I don't hear brass players doing it. A lot. Some do. We're aiming, right, for beat 1. Now that sounds like the easiest thing in the world, that we're aiming for beat 1. It's actually quite hard to do. And what I would do, I would work backwards. And here are some things to throw out there. Somebody said to me, they listened to a number of my solos, and they said, you never start your solo on beat 1. I was like, yeah, I do, I must do. They said, no, you don't, listen. 1, 2, 3, 4, and always pushing. I'm never going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? I'm starting my phrases. I'm thinking about starting my phrases on beat 1. And you know, it was right. I don't. And actually, I think to start your phrase on beat 1 is so strong and has so much positivity that I think we should practice it. I think we should practice that. Let's take that to the next level. It's a classic drum thing, or if you've been to any rhythm workshops or anything like that, that practice playing your phrases on beat 1, your first phrase on beat 1, your second phrase on 1 and, the and of 1, the next phrase on beat 2, 2 and, 3, 3 and, 4, 4 and then back to 1. It really gets you thinking. And what does that do? It starts changing your phrases around so that your solos now start sounding, oh, that's really interesting. That's different, you know. Oh, great, it's making sense. You're getting more confident with the time. You're getting more confident and a bigger variety with your phrasing. You're not always starting. We learn a lick, you know. It's like, actually change it up. What's a good example of that? Do you all know this honeysuckle rose lick? It's on my Patreon. Check out my Patreon. It's written down there. But this is a classic lick that everyone plays. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's change it up. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. It's hard to count and play at the same time. Do you see that lick for me absolutely transforms? It changes its character because I've just simply played it on a different beat. Okay, so let's start thinking about that. Let's start thinking about where we're playing our phrases, what beat we're starting our phrases on. Now then, let's lead in now to beat 1. So we know that the rhythm section is naturally cadencing. And I should say, we're doing 4 bars now. It could be 8 bars. On a blues, they will naturally cadence at the end of 12, 2, 3, 4, bosh, right? 1. So we need to look at that and we need to acknowledge that they're doing that. So let's work backwards. Now then, did you all check out some of those bebop scales, right? Hopefully you did. I think they're 60-second ones. Can't remember 30-second ones. Check them out. But simply a scale. Okay. What are we doing? We're starting on beat 1, which is strong. We're going to swing hard. We're going to play. It's nothing too high, nothing too low. I'm just playing the F7 bebop scale. So again, check out the videos. But all it is I'm thinking of F7. It's an F major scale with the E flat in, or if you like, it's got the E flat in, E natural, F, so that we're playing the chord tones on the beats. Check out the videos. I won't go over that again. But we're starting on beat 1 and we're peaking at the beginning of the next bar. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so let's imagine this. A 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3. What's just happened? The intensity of what I've just done will have a greater effect in my solo because I've played that, simple as it is, from root to root on the 4th bar. If I'd have played that on the 2nd bar, the 1st bar, the 3rd bar, then maybe it wouldn't have had as much intensity. I'm playing it on the 4th bar and I'm aiming, starting on the 1st beat of the 4th bar, and I'm aiming for the 1st beat of the next cycle. Okay, you can do that on the blues. So play that on the 12th bar. Practice playing it on the end of the 8th bar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 6, 2, 3, 4, 7, 2, 3. Da ba da ba da ba da ba da. Okay, moving on. Next thing to think about is it was an ascending line. It was an ascending line. I've got this big thing about ascending lines. I think it's the secret. I think it's the secret to playing great solos and exciting solos. And I think we need to be more aware when we're soloing of whether our phrase is ascending or it's descending. Okay? So let me talk a bit more about it. I think brass players generally play 90%, big statement, 90% descending lines. And I know why. I know why. If you were to look at people's solos, they're always descending. And they're always descending at the end of phrases. Right? So why is that? I think, I'm throwing this out there and putting it on the table. If you want to pick it up, you can do. Is we take a breath. We blow, we blow, we blow, we blow, we blow. We run out of breath. That feeling, right, has got that to it. Brass playing, it's harder to ascend. Tightening chops to go up, right? It's easier to slacken off. I also think musically, high sounds are questions, low sounds are resolutions. I've heard the drum workshops talk about this as well. It's not, but we need to put it onto horns as well. Let me give you an example in a drum context. Snare drum, questions, high sounds. Kick drum, low sounds, resolution. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Bap, 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 boom, boom, da 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 da, boom, boom. Right? I'm asking a question, high sounds. I'm answering them with low sounds, resolution. So I do think harmonically and everything that we're talking about is that if your phrases descend, they are resolving and everything's nicey, nicey, nice. Okay? But maybe, as I've said at the beginning, you don't want to do nicey, nice solos. You want your solos to build. You want them to go somewhere. And I think this is the secret to that. And it's where you do it as well, which is cadencing and coming out on beat 1 of the form. I mean, it's bringing so many other things into it, but you are now playing the form. You're not just playing the chord that you're on, you're playing the form. So what happens with horn players? We go right? It's a great solo. Not really, but it's okay solo, right? What have I done? I've gone up and I've come down. I've gone up and I've come down. What happens if I keep going up? Within that phrase, I'm building something. I'm creating. Yeah? So you can get a motif. Right? Okay, so good. I know the question that you're going to ask me now is, what if I can't play high? I've only got a 2.5, 3 octave range, right? I know, it's really hard. I started thinking about vibes players, vibraphone players. They can build solos. When I'm listening to all these guys, like, they're amazing. They're building solos. They're being more rhythmical, I think, because of the nature of their instrument, using the sticks, more rhythmical. But a vibraphone is pretty much the same range as a good trombonist. I actually think, I need to check this, but I actually think it goes down to a bottom E and then goes up to a top whatever, F. It might go higher, but do you know what I mean? And they can build solos, so why can't we? Something to think about. Now, you're going to ask me, once I've reached, I can get to the top pretty quick. Right, so I've gone all the way down from F to a top C in, 3 beats, maybe 4 beats max then? So what do? You can't keep going higher and higher and higher. And actually what happens on trombone is your high range will get smaller and smaller. So you're wanting the top range to be like climactic, and actually it's quite weedy. Yeah? Well, we don't want that. So you've got to keep it in a thing. Now, what's the answer to this? What I've found is it doesn't matter how high you're playing. It's the fact that your line is ascending. Okay, so I'll say that again. It doesn't matter how high. So I end up on a top F, hammering a top F. Great, or a D. It doesn't matter. I can't keep going up G's, A's, super C's, whatever, right? It's the fact that my line, the intention of the line is ascending. So the next stage on from this is ba ba da ba da ba da ba dee. Ba-da ba-da-ba-da-ba-ding, ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-ding, ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-ding, ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-ding. Bo-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, bo-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da, bo-ba-da-da-ba-da-da-da, ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da, ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. Yeah, I didn't know how many bars I was doing, but hopefully you could hear I was constantly ascending. My line was ascending. And what did I do? Notice what I did. I cadenced on beat 1. Now then, this is a lot harder to do. It's sort of a simple thing to talk about, but it's actually quite hard. And so go back to just doing these simple scales or simple phrases, but just be aware of where you're positioning them. Okay, moving on. Now what's happening is I would go back. I would start doing it over 2 beats. 4 2 b da 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 d, something simple. Or let me say that again so it makes sense. 1 2 3 4 2 2 3 4 3 2 3 4 4 2 ba ba da ba d. When you hit beat 1, hold the note on. Simply hold the note on, because what we don't want to do is lose the intensity. We've just spent 2 beats, 1 bar, however you can work it backwards, 4 bars, building up to cadencing. We don't want to now lose it by coming down. I do it all the time, and it absolutely, I wind myself up. So I'll do a great build. Right? So my phrase has peaked, but then it's got a little after trickle on it that's like, oh, a bit of a like to it. Just simply stop playing. Just hold the note on. Hit beat 1 right in the face. Hold it, hold it, hold it. And do you know what? It doesn't even matter what note it is. If it's a wrong note, yeah? So it doesn't even matter what note it is. The fact that you've done that, the emphasis is massive, And do you know what? Really exciting. It's really exciting. So what are we doing now? We're working backwards. Yes, we can start adding some harmony. Oh, so we'll sustain an altered chord, we'll sustain a diminished chord, we'll add these subs, we'll whatever. We can start harmonically screwing it up, as well as rhythmically screwing it up, but we're always going to come out on beat 1. I have done some other videos on those. Check that out, where I'm talking about dotted crotchets. But all these people that seem to be able to do it, I've asked them about it, and they've said, we sat down with a pen and piece of paper, we wrote out 8 bars, and we worked it out backwards. All right, so if I start on the 5th bar of beat 1 and I play this pattern, it will resolve on the first beat of the 9th bar, if you like, of the beginning of the 8-bar cycle. They've worked it out. You have to learn the basics. That's a technical thing. That's what you need to practice. It's a technical thing. It's maths. I get it. And then once we have the rules, then we can break them. But you're getting it in your ear. You're getting it in your ear. So now let me throw some things out which are the next step on from what I've said. Now we're talking about aiming for the cadence, and we're now peaking. What do we do now we've peaked? Right? What do we do? We've now gained control of where our phrases want to be. We've gained control of that. So don't like that's really exciting. That's sort of stage 1. Stage 2 is, where do you want to release it? That's where I'm going. Where do you want to release it? Say we're doing a blues. We go 9 2 3 4 10 2 3 4 11 2 3 4 12 1. We're back at the top of the form. 2 2 3 4 3 2 3 4 2 3 4 5. So we might come out. We might resolve that tension on the 5th bar when it goes to chord 4. Now we're getting really exciting. Great players can maintain that intensity for another chorus, for a whole other chorus, for 2 choruses, 3 choruses. But now they're choosing where they're going to break out of that intensity. Now, let's talk about the rhythm section if that happens. 9 2 3 4 10 2 3 4 11 2 3 4 12 1. if you're still maintaining, if you're still going, they'll crash out on one, but then go, oh wow, dudum dudum 2, dudum 3, dudum 4, dudum 5, you know. So now you're playing over the form. Now you're playing over the form. We know where the form is. We can acknowledge the form if we want to, but we're now playing over the form. So let me give you an example of that. It's hard to play and count for you, but hopefully you get it. Is we go 11, 2, 3, let's go 9. 9, 2, 3, 4, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So what have I done? I've got my motif that's coming in 4 bars before the head, 4 bars before the end of the form, but I've kept going with that. I've kept going with it for another 4 bars. And the rhythm section will be like, wow, what's happening? What's happening? He's still going. Bosh, then they can come out on bar 5. So now my phrase is dictating the intensity. And that's the sort of things that we need to start thinking about. We need to start thinking about. As I say, holding a note, simply hitting beat 1 and holding a note for 4 bars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. Definitely with brass players, what I've found is breathing. So you do a 4-bar leading, ascending phrase, you get into the big peak, you'll start panicking and you'll start be like, oh, changing the idea. Maintain the idea all the way to beat 1. But what happens is you'll run out of breath. You'll run out of breath. So, and you've run out of breath. So what I find, again, if you work it backwards, go breathe. Breathe. So you've got enough air to carry you through. That needs looking at. As I said, it's sort of obvious to say, don't run out of breath when you're about to peak. Don't crumble away. You know, make sure you've got enough breath to carry you right up to the beat 1. Now then, here's another thing. So we're up there. I think all of us need to be more aware of the range that we're playing in. Now. This is basically where I'm going with this, is that if you looked at one of my solos, which I do all the time, listening, and you got the average note, you took all the notes that I played up and down the horn, and you got the average note, depending on the solo, I don't know. Let's say it was a middle C. If you got the average note, all the tops, all the bottoms, and you got the average note, maybe I'm hovering around a middle C. That has an intensity to it. But a D, 1 note above, has a bigger intensity. An E flat, an E, an F, we've still got up to a top C to go. So if your solo is sort of nice and mid-range, you might actually find that you're just bombing around like an A or an F. There, your average note, your intensity is there. When actually, you want it to be an octave up. You want it to be an octave up if you're trying to create an exciting solo. So being aware of what range you're playing in. Now, I did one of the solos on one of these 20 funk studies that you need to check out, which was called, I think I called it the matchstick technique, which is really, and it's hard, it's really hard. I'll tell you 2 reasons why it's hard, but I'm pinning a note, middle C, and then my next phrase goes to a D, then my next phrase goes to an E flat, then my next to an F. So I'm not ever going above. I'm being strict in restricting myself only to play within these certain notes. And it goes up. Why is that hard? Because you're really restricting yourself when you're improvising. And B, stamina-wise, I don't think I've spoken about stamina yet. When you're playing solos up high and loud with full force, full commitment, watch your stamina. It's hard. If you can steam in on a solo, don't do 10 choruses. Don't do 10 choruses. If you just do 2 choruses, absolutely burn for 2 choruses, then sit down, stop. You've said what you've got to say. Don't do 2 incredible solos, 2 incredible choruses, and then start the 3rd, starts dying, the 4th is trickling out, and by the 5th it's a load of after dribble, you know. No one wants that. So be aware of that. If you're gonna come steaming in, top C's on a pop solo or a funk solo, don't play for too long. Don't play for too long. Be aware of that. Okay. So I think it's very interesting to start practicing soloing in the space of I don't know, a 3rd, 5th, 2 notes, whatever, 2 notes. Make it interesting. Right? I can go on. Hopefully you're getting the gist of what I'm doing. It's not the greatest thing I've ever played, but you get the gist. I'm really restricting myself to just those 2 notes. Then I can do another note. So now I've got 3. Now I've got 4 notes. Now I've got 5 notes. Now I've got 6. Yeah? So I'm really focusing in, and my intensity is in that part of the horn. So let's take that to the next level of where we've just got to. I'm leading in. Yeah? Even then, like, I felt myself coming down, wanting to come down. I've gone up. I'm sort of, it's like an automatic feeling that you want to come back down. Stay up there. Stay up there. Don't let yourself come back down. If you steam in on a pop solo, stay up there. Stay up there. I mean, the other thing is, which is not our fault, but it's quite realistic to say, is there anything on a pop solo, it just doesn't get heard. It just doesn't get heard. Is your sound guy on the case with it? You know, is your monitor guy on the case? If you start playing a solo down there, you know, it's tough. Keep the intensity, keep it high. And maybe we should be practicing solos between an F and a top C. And practicing, you know, maybe we should do it down the octave to start with, to start getting some ideas, practicing your licks, moving round. And yeah, that brings us on. Everything brings us on to something else that we all need to learn. But chromaticism, being able to play chromatically around, making these changes with chromatic stuff. I'm going to do a video, maybe my next funk solo. I'll show you some chromaticism that we can do, and I'll write loads of exercises out on my Patreon, so go there and check that out. But playing chromatic on the trombone, oh my goodness, it's the hardest thing to do. It's the hardest. It just sounds like, you know, if your tonguing's not together, it just sounds like that, right? So getting it tight, getting it together, getting it in time, all the good stuff that we've just talked about in this lesson. Chromatic. Right? It's sort of meandering. It's meandering. But if we do it aggressively with time and we start linking up some chord tones with some language, with some hip things, I'll show you how to do all that. I'll do that in some other lessons. But yeah, maybe we should practice doing stuff like that. Okay, I'll leave it there. I'll have a think. I'll write some stuff down on the Patreon. There's a whole massive concept that I've just put out there for you to think about. and hopefully get it into your solos. But start simple and work it. All right. Comment below, all that stuff that I hate saying, but comment below, click subscribe, join my Patreon. And if you want an individual Zoom lesson, we can totally do that. That'll be fun. I teach students all over the world, so don't worry about time zones and things like that. And we can go into a bit more depth on any of this stuff that you like. All right, take it easy, guys. See you later.